John Lynch just said, "F this. I'm not doing what the Skins did.
Yep.
We believe in this guy."
Right. I mean, even though
him.
it was only 7 career starts total, that includes, 1 or 2 in New England.
He pulled the trigger. Said, I'm ready to commit.
Is he right now currently the highest paid player in the NFL?
Yes.
$27.5 million. Eclipses Matt Stafford.
$90 million guaranteed in the first 3 years.
So the 49ers...
Can you imagine knowing in the next 3 years, by 2021, you're going to have $90 million. Well, you're not going to have $90 million. You get taxed, but you get $90 million come to you.
That you've earned. I would love to know what his current status is.
But think about that. That's a situation where the Niners said, we just saw the debacle in D.C.
Yeah,
we're not doing
here's
that.
his current status.
This is our guy.
Neck deep in it.
Right.
Probably nose deep in it.
It only took them 7 games to realize that was their guy.
Realize that's their guy.
It shows they could see the future. They understand this is what's going to happen. And Kirk Cousins is largely responsible for it, the way he kind of manipulated the market, but the way contracts were going at that position with what Stafford and some of these other guys had signed.
Right.
The Redskins, meanwhile, were stuck in the 2000s or whatever.
Yeah.
And they couldn't see this coming, or they were just flat out resistant to it.
Mm-hmm.
They either didn't see the market exploding or didn't want to face the realization of it.
Yeah. So they I guess I wonder what their reaction is over there. Are they like kind of fist pumping that they avoided that payday, or are they kind of kicking themselves, going, you know what, damn it, we had a pretty damn good one, we should have done that?
It's a good question. They just never really bought into him.
Weren't they paying Alex Smith an average of like $23 million per season?
Yeah, but it's less
cheaper.
It's just cheaper.
It's less than what they would have paid Kirk, but it's still pretty high.
It's not a Jimmy Grapes deal.
It's not that high, but it's still pretty high.
No, it is, and it's
for Alex Smith. It's not a guy that you're like,
right.
This he's the next Tom Brady. He's the next Alex. He's the next Aaron Rodgers. You never say that about Alex Smith.
Well, and as I said at the time, it was definitely an insult, slap in the face to Cousins, who toiled away here for 5 or 6 years or whatever, and they topped out at $58 million guaranteed or whatever, and boom, they snapped their fingers and give an older guy who's accomplished less.
Yep. They give him $70+ million guaranteed.
Yeah. But the other thing is, again, it just comes down to believing that what you have is what you want.
Right.
So obviously John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan said, you know what? This is our guy.
Are you convinced?
And we're not gonna franchise him and then be in a situation next year where he doesn't agree to one and he wants to play him the franchise.
Avoid that dance.
Yes.
They just said, screw it. This is our guy. We're committed.
And
we're
obviously Jimmy Grapes wants to be there.
Are you
he wants to play under Kyle Shanahan.
Great. Are you convinced he's going to be a top quarterback in the league? The body of work is so small.
Let me say this. True, it is. And it's hard to say this. It's hard to predict it. All right, I'm a little bit biased because I'm rooting for him.
Right.
But once all those big dogs get out of the league, once Brady retires, Breeze retires, Roethlisberger retires, Rivers retires, and then you're left with guys like Stafford, and Rodgers will still be in there. But I think he'll be in the top 7. I'm not saying he'll be 1 or 2, but I think he'll be in that top 5 to 7.
Well, I saw this on social media, and this.
Oh, how do you guys feel about that?
This jumped out at me. The comparison between Jimmy Garoppolo's body of work with the 49ers and the last 6 games that Colin Kaepernick played.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put them side by side, passer rating for Jimmy Garoppolo in the 6 games, 96.2. Colin Kaepernick, 96.2. Completion percentage for Garoppolo, 67%. Kaepernick, 65%. Touchdown interception ratio, Kaepernick, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. Garoppolo, who signs this richest deal in history, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. Kaepernick actually compares favorably to Garoppolo.
You're getting caught up in the stats, my friend. You have to watch the teams play. Let me just say this. Kaepernick was losing games, and a lot of those numbers were when they were down and they're just throwing. He wasn't winning games. Jimmy Garoppolo was winning games, and they were beating good teams.
With a bad roster around him.
I think he
was making those guys better.
I think he may be a good player. But awful early to go all in on him. I get it. That's the landscape. It's kind of what you have to do. Kirk Cousins, whatever. But there's a chance that he could flail.
We could be wrong.
We could be wrong.
I mean, he could be terrible.
I think he's going to
be the worst contract in the history of the NFL. But I don't think it is.
And Kaepernick deserves another shot in the league.
Kaepernick is clearly on blackball. There's no doubt. Everybody agrees.
He's been blacklisted.
There's no question about it. What it says to me, and what I kind of like about it, is that I think we just rush these quarterbacks to play way too quickly. And Garoppolo and even Cousins, they marinated for a while. They got a chance to learn, to settle in, right? Pros, and then you see this development. See, Jared Goff is so lucky because he was headed down the highway of Cade McNown and all these other flameouts, the Mitch Trubisky trajectory. That's where Jared Goff was going. And luckily, he got a quarterback whisperer to come in there and save his career.
Well, same thing with Jimmy Grapps. Now
exactly.
He's got Shanahan mentoring him.
And Carson Wentz somehow figured it out because he looked like a completely different quarterback in his second year. But a lot of these guys are getting thrown to the wolves because they're early draft picks. Garoppolo was a second-round pick, but they didn't rush him, and they didn't need to because they had Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So that's what jumps out at me is I think these young quarterbacks need to be groomed, and we got to stop throwing them to the wolves just because we're paying them, first-round money.